All right, brilliant. Welcome everybody to the second session of the QGIS Open Day on this lovely Friday in November. This session is going to be by Dror, and he's going to take us through taking QGIS2Web maps a step further. So I'm quite excited to see what the step further is. And then he will be showing us the QGIS2Web is just an absolutely amazing plugin. It allows the users to create interactive maps at the sort of in a push button type environment, which is fantastic. But it does have its limits. And Dror is going to show us how to up those limits. So over to you.
Okay, so thank you, Amy. And I'm going to, I'm going to talk a bit about the QGIS2Web, like Amy said. First, who I am, I'm Dror. That's exactly what it sounds like. Sounds like it's spelled. I'm married to Diana, and I'm a father to Noga and Ronnie, both girls. I'm a GS dev at the Tel Aviv municipality, and I just like playing with QGIS and making web maps and arguing about why we should use QGIS instead of the other product. And I'm gonna skip ahead to QGIS2Web because I have a feeling the live demo later will probably take us some time. So, like Amy said, QGIS2Web is a very popular plugin. You can see it as like I'm not sure if it counts all the downloads here or just the latest version, but close to 1 million downloads. What it allows you to do is create very simple interactive maps from QGIS in literally minutes or even less if you don't really care about designing your maps or setting the appearance of the web map. You can just load your layers, click on the QGIS2Web export window, select which type of map you want. This is important for my session since I'm only going to display editing and actually improving maps that are using Mapbox GLJS. That's because they use a very simple way of they use something we'll see later that's very easy to edit and add to. So like I said, you can update your preview. I'll show you in a minute. You can really create maps that will be you can deploy anywhere. You can see you can let your data you can make your data available for your users wherever they are without the need for downloading QGIS. You just give them the address. Like by default, it works from the folder, but you can also load it to any web server like GitHub Pages or your local IAS or Apache Tomcat, which I'm using, and the maps just work. That's what I love about it. It's a very simple way of using QGIS to create interactive maps. So, what are the? Wait. Oh, those are the pros, those are the cons. Okay, cons. Your data remains static, meaning whatever data you loaded into the map, it stays that way. So if I loaded this point layer and this building layer, the plugin actually exports the data itself, not the links to your data sources. So you get a static view of your data, unless you use web services like you see. Yeah, like you can see here, you see the base map is actually updating, but the layers aren't. So the base map here is a web service, but the layers are static versions of themselves. They don't support all styles. For example, I wanted to display how you can use a lot of buildings on OpenStreetMap have the building color attribute. And QGIS can just take that field and run with it. You have colors like Gainsborough or floral white or dim gray, and they just work for you. And it works like a charm really every time. Problem is when you try to export it to QGIS2Web, it will only take the simple field color you selected. You can get by that by setting each color individually. It's actually easier than it sounds. You just I'll show you in a minute. But what you do is create a category, categorize the symbology, and then just set the colors for each category. You don't have to create each category in the rule manually. So that's a con, actually. There's no 3D, even though Mapbox GLJS supports three-dimensional, at least for polygons. You can't get that out of the box in QGIS2Map. So that's a downside. I mean, we are looking at the same data here. This is a map I exported today, and this is the same area from one of my posts. I don't remember from when. So how can we improve outputs? And like on my last slides here, how can we improve outputs? You can learn to code. You can make your own web maps. It's longer. It's not quick and easy like using QGIS and QGIS2Web. You don't have like a fast UI that you can just load all of your layers and style them and style your pop-ups or I don't remember what's called map tips in QGIS. You can contribute code if you know how to code and help QGIS2Web expand itself further, or support the developers. But that doesn't solve your need for the web map you were asked to make for tomorrow. So what can we do? We can learn how to edit the results of the map. We can use simple edits like switching one line for another and getting updated data. For example, if I have a GeoJSON file which is stored on any web server, like again GitHub pages, your local Apache instance, any web server that QGIS2Web can reach, you can just switch out you can switch out the data name where the QGIS2Web shows it, where QGIS2Web stores the data, and with the link, with the URL, and it will just work. That's part of the beauty. Data here can be either a full-on GeoJSON file, or it can be a linked one. And you can use additional tools like Maputnik to edit the results, the resulting symbology. So you can actually create something that's a bit more advanced, a bit 3D, or uses a default color, something like that. It's time for the demo. So I'm going to first create a map. What I said, I have a buildings layer which I just grabbed using the QuickOSM plugin. And what I did was I created a rule. Let's do it again. I created a categorized symbol using the building color attribute, which we can find, and I classified. Let's show the other way. And what QGIS knows how to do is actually pretty cool. Let's take something that has a funny name, like lemon chiffon or whatever that is, and just we're going to edit every. I'm not going to do that, but we can edit every symbol and just change the color. I'm just pasting the color name, and QGIS just knows how to handle it. It translates it to hex colors. So I think that's about it for the sample here, and I'm going to drop that and regain the building design. Now, what I wanted to show, apart from the buildings layer, which obviously I just grabbed from OpenStreetMap, I also have a geospatial companies layer. This is a layer I created from data that you can all find using this geospatial companies map created by Christoph Reich. I actually asked about it a few days ago. It's a great map. Problem is, it's on Google My Maps. It doesn't have any. It doesn't have any lat and long in the data. It just have addresses. And when you download it, you get a CSV without any spatial data. So adding new companies is a problem. And if you want to edit the current companies, you can't really change the location. So what I did was use Google Sheets to, I used Google Sheets to load all the data and geocoded all the company's data. And then I used Google App Script, which is an amazing product by Google, to create a sort of very basic web service, which lets me get the data from Google Sheets as a GeoJSON. I mean, I'm just get all the data. You can't get highlights on this screen, so that's a problem. But I just grab the data by sheet name, I get it by range, values, and then for every row, I just throw in a GeoJSON feature. So when I get the data into QGIS, I have an option to deploy this code. This is code connected to the geospatial company's sheet. And when I deploy it, I can get a link to the data. So if I open this link, I can get all of my data as features which QGIS can read. So if I go back to QGIS, I can see that my companies layer is actually just using the link. I can add, let's add it again. I just go to File. I just go to the data source manager, vector file, and it knows I've added a link. I do add, and I'll get a layer name exec, since that's the way the link ends. That's the way the link ends, and I get all the data. Now that's one of my problems with the fact that the QGIS2Web creates a very static version of our data. I have a dynamic version which, whenever I change something on Google Sheets, will get a new version of the data in QGIS. So if I add or delete one of these companies, let's see. going to do that fast. That's not the name. Let's say I take all the companies in Israel and just tell Google the sheets not to show. So now when I get the updated version of the data, you'll see that I don't get new points over the existing points in QGIS. Now we got new points, just not in Israel, where I told it not to display the data. Now that's a problem. You see that the old points disappeared too. It keeps the data updated whenever it can. Let's add the companies back in. Refresh, and I should get the updated points. Maybe not. Yeah, here they are. So when I export it using QGIS2Web, I just get the, let's export using QGIS2Web. I export to a folder. I want to show the buildings, the base map, and the companies there. I don't really care about anything else right now. I use Mapbox and export. So when I export to QGIS2Web, I get the address of where my data is saved, and I can use the Windows Explorer to find it. We can see we have two vector layers, so I should have in the data two files, one for buildings and one for companies. And if I edit it with Notepad++, you can see that it has the same structure as any GeoJSON file. So what I want to do is make QGIS2Web, instead of use the version of data it exported, I want to use the version of data that is always up to date. So it's actually a very, very simple process. What I do is go to the Mapbox file, to the Mapbox folder inside the QGIS2Map exported. I edit style.js, and I find my JSON companies layer. Very easy to find. I saw just a second ago that that's how it's called. JSON companies 1, JSON companies 1. And all I have to do to get updated data, again, this can be data from anywhere. It doesn't have to be Google Sheets. I'm going to replace the buildings layer as well with the saved version. And that's it. I just add the URL instead of the exported version. And when I reload the data, I should have the same exported style for my layer. It just keeps the data up to date. Again, I can hide some of these companies, and when I refresh, I'll get the updated data. The same can be done for the buildings layer. I already exported it to GeoJSON earlier. So I have a version sitting on my local host called layers building GeoJSON. I can just grab this link and change JSON buildings to my local host. And again, this shouldn't affect my map in any way. Or maybe it did. I'll check that out later. As long as the layer stays the same way, there really shouldn't be any problem with this. And I knew something was going to go wrong. We'll just keep we'll keep the version that works. And so we solved one problem. We can get updated data from any web server whenever we want. What about 3D? I mean, I have buildings. My buildings have a height attribute somewhere. Another con, we don't get scrollable pop-ups. So my buildings do have an height attribute, which I've already calculated in advance. Oh, sorry. I already calculated in advance the base height and the extrusion height. It's actually pretty easy to do that in QGIS. For example, I have two saved expressions just for that. User expressions. Let's do base height. So if I have a minimum height field, great. Then I just make it not a text field. I make it a real number. And if not, do I have a source min height? Else, then just make the base on the ground. And my other option for calculate extrusion height, which obviously I didn't save, again checks height. Yes, great. Now do this. Then if it doesn't have height, then check if it has a number of floors, and then just double floors for like 4 meters, and that's good enough to just display the data. And what I'm going to do now is basically, since I do have a local version of the buildings GeoJSON, even though currently QGIS2Web doesn't want to play nice with it, I can use Maputnik, which is a great tool for editing Mapbox GLJS styles. And as long as I have a GeoJSON of my data, preferably using a web server, since my option here is either pasting the entire file into Maputnik or just using a simple web server, which will let Maputnik just get the file. So what I'm going to do here, this is my local version of Maputnik. You can actually get the free editor if you just Google search Maputnik or DuckDuckGo search Maputnik, and they have like a link to the free editor which anyone can use anytime. So let's use our layer, and this style already has a buildings layer, so I'm going to hide it, and I'm going to add a data source. In my case, GeoJSON. So you have a GeoJSON JSON, and then you just paste all of your data inside, or you get a GeoJSON URL and just paste the URL of the layer, and let's call it buildings. And something important to remember about Mapbox GLJS styles is you have to have a source which we can use to build multiple layers on, kind of like creating multiple symbols from the same layer in QGIS. We just have we can create multiple layers from the source in Maputnik or Mapbox Studio or whatever you want to use. So I've added the building source, and I'm just going to add a 3D fill extrusion of the building geodesic. And since you can see, I checked this an hour ago, and my source is still buildings, and I'm going to say that the ID is buildings GeoJSON, since again this style has a buildings layer, and that's all I need. The we have different types of sources, but what we want right now polygon. If you want stroke for your polygons, then you need to add a second layer using line. For example, if you can see, in QGIS, my buildings had a stroke, and it's buried in QGIS2Web, and that's because it creates one layer for one source. So I'm just going to create the fill extrusion layer. By default, all symbols are just black, and when we want to add color, we're going to use an expression to get that color. Just like QGIS expressions, the Mapbox style language has its own expressions, and that doesn't mean we can't set the color for the entire layer right now. For example, I can make all the buildings orange. Make all the buildings orange, or red in my case. But I can still I can use just like we have the option to use the field, we can do that too. And I'm going to use function, see here, instead of set value. So literal means just a set value for everyone. And if I want to create I'm copying here. It's a simple case saying if there's a building color, then set the building color. If there isn't, then use that as the color. If not, then just use gray. I'm not telling it which gray to use. And that's it. That sets the color. So that's actually simpler. Finding the exact color it was supposed to be. We just like Mapbox style do exactly that. And what I want to also do is add the extrusion height and the extrusion base. So again, here I'm going to use a simple expression. If I'm not sure what my field names are, I can use the inspect mode and grab one polygon. You can see actually you can inspect all the data under under your click point. So you have like a lot of data if you're using a base map from anyone. But right now we'll just check out our polygon. I can see I have a base height and extrusion height. Attributes, and I'm just changing the extrusion height to extrusion height and extrusion base to, you can all be surprised, extrusion base height, sorry. And once this is set, let's change the field to the opacity to see it. We can go back and see we have 3D buildings. Now, what do we do? How do we take this into our QGIS2Web map? It's actually very simple, since whenever you edit anything in Mapbox, it just creates a JSON editable version of the style here below. And what we want to copy here is the layer called buildings. Sorry. Okay, buildings 3. I want to do 3D, but okay. And we go back to style.js again, and just replace. Sorry, and just replace or add to our layer of buildings. Just add. Everything is done like that, and save. Go back to QGIS2Web now, and we should now have. Oh, sorry. What I forgot to do is change the source. Again, Mapbox styles use a source and layer attribute. So when I want to create a layer, it needs to be connected to an existing source. So when I do this, this should get back to work. And we have a 3D, our 3D buildings with everything we wanted.
That's so cool.
And I think that's pretty much my presentation. I mean, that didn't feel like much, but that's it.
No, that's brilliant. I think it's so cool.
Yeah,
It's really sort of extended the functionality in a relatively easy way that anyone can do.
Yeah, that's the point. I have 2 posts in my blog about this. Each one of them actually came from client asking how to do this, and then
what is your blog link?
It's in the end of the presentation. I'll just switch to it. And just one last thing. I'm going to make, when I finish my code didn't work earlier, before we went live, I'm going to just make this map of the geospatial companies simple, available for anyone, with a form that will allow you to just add a company for, like, let's call it company tests, and just the submit currently doesn't work, but that's a point, and that's it will help us create an updated version, so everyone can use that. The same code for Google Sheets will work with everything. I'm going to make the Google Sheets code as well. Available on GitHub, and I'll add the link to the QGIS Open Day wiki when it's done. So right, we said. Sorry, I think I lost. Slideshow. So I don't know. Any questions? Anyone?
Oh, that's brilliant stuff. I see there are a couple of comments already coming in the Jitsi chat. Thanks so much, Tara. If anyone in the room does have a question, please, jump on your mic and do ask. I'd like to start us off. I wanted to ask, when you were styling back in QGIS and you had the color names as sort of an attribute column, is there no way that you could make that process slightly easier? Instead of copying and then pasting it into where the hex code goes and the hex code happening, could you not use an expression in the color by attributes to do that?
I don't think so. I mean, I've tried, but we can try again. Let's try it again.
Because I know you can color features using the attribute.
Let's try single symbol and use an expression instead of the. Okay. So yeah, you didn't see the expression, but when I changed it from field to expression, it just created an expression of the building color. And let's apply and try and exporting. Export. No, it just doesn't work. I really don't know why, and I really would love to have some time to contribute to QGIS2Web, but unfortunately, it doesn't work. I hope it will soon.
That's a pity. That would have been easy. I like that.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else in the room have a question?
No.
I don't see any. You see, it was such a fantastic presentation and so well explained that there are no questions. There are none coming through on the live chat currently.
Okay. So anyway, I'll probably post a link to the presentation too, and everything is available on YouTube from now on.
I did want to ask, if someone is using, say, LizMap or one of the others, would this workflow work similarly, or is it specific to what you used?
Well, I've actually never tried LizMap, but this works for just anyone that uses Mapbox or MapLibre styles. Since it just lets you edit the data. I mean, my earlier blog post about it is actually a lot more complicated than what I just showed. But that's why I created two, one for updated data and one for 3D. So if anyone here is reading just the 3D, I recommend seeing this video and updating and reading the one about the updated data, because before I thought I needed, I didn't think about just adding a link to the data, which saves a lot of time, both in Maputnik and when you edit the data yourself. I mean, Mapbox, the GLJS, just works. It just works great when you give it a URL instead of adding all your data into the static site. So even if you have like a layer, you can just update on your local or organizational server and just let your map go from there.
No, that's absolutely brilliant stuff. Last round of questions I'm asking for. I see, Taris, you've put a question into the chat. I'm going to read it out for the people who are watching the live stream because they can't see the chat. But can a person change the reference to a base map in a notepad, or does the base map remain permanent after exporting the project with
you totally can. You totally can. I mean, you can just change the link. You see, I have the link here for the Carto Light No Labels, and if I just grab the link for and I can just grab the link for OpenStreetMap, which again comes with QGIS by default. I can just change it. I changed it to Carto since the buildings gray didn't seem that well on OpenStreetMap. That's how easy it is. Just changing the link for the raster layer, and keep copyrights. Yeah, I've actually got a note about that. Taras wrote here that we should keep copyrights in mind. That's very, very true. You can also add an attribution. An attribution. So open street I'm having so many mistakes. Contributors, and we should get an updated attribution in our map too. Okay,
I see so brilliant.
Taris is absolutely correct, because maps using OpenStreetMap are supposed to have the little copyrights image with the OpenStreetMap contributors. And I have gotten a note about that QGIS2Web doesn't export it, but again, I'm not currently contributing to QGIS2Map, so just to use
So it doesn't automatically have the attribution in it. It doesn't read that from anywhere. You have to manually add it like you just did.
Yeah, it doesn't read it manually because I've checked, and the OpenStreetMap contributors is actually part of the OpenStreetMap information. I mean, it's right there in the license somewhere here. Yeah, there it is in the licenses, and you have the rights, and it should be there. It's just currently not there. So if you are using OpenStreetMap, add the attribution.
And I mean, that goes with any data.
Also useful. What?
You should really attribute any of your data. I harp on about this in quite a lot of the sessions that, attribution, especially with open source data, etc. I think people, I don't know if they get lazy or just don't think of it as part of the license because it's open source. But attributing the data and attributing the people who have worked on those workflows is really important.
Yeah. So you should attribute the data, and the attribution, I don't know, called this. The key works on, I think, all sources as well. Pretty sure it's source based and not layer based.
Haven't a clue.
Yeah. Okay.
And then there's another question from Taras. I'm just going to read it out for our live viewers. I was wondering about that because there are only 3 options in QGIS2Web available: OpenLayers, Leaflet, and Mapbox GLJS. Am I right?
Yeah, there are currently only 3 options. These are the most popular web mapping libraries around currently. I mean, Mapbox GLJS is currently not open source anymore. So I'm assuming that QGIS2Web is using an open source version of it, but you can, if you want, just use MapLibra.js if you're going to write your own web maps. But yeah, these are the 3 big options. And if your map is staying in the 2D level, I mean, if you don't need extrusions, then I highly recommend Leaflet. It's an amazing product. It's very light. It's very fast, and it's usually very easy to read, even if you don't know a lot of code.
So, which would you suggest for each kind of use case? Because obviously for the use case and workflow you've given us today, Mapbox GLJS was the best option. So what use cases lend themselves to these different options?
Well, I think at least if you want to get a lot of the extra plugins like geolocate, highlight, and all that, I think most of them, if not all of them, are implemented in Leaflet. I haven't tried a lot of OpenLayers. I know it's out of all 3, it's actually the library with most features. So I don't know how many of the features are actually implemented in QGIS2Web. So a lot of this I know is implemented, like measure tool, geolocate user, layer list. You can have it collapsed as well, address search even. But that's pretty much. So if you want to, if you're here for the widgets and not the extra features like 3D and the extra editing, so Leaflet is your friend. I'm not sure Leaflet supports using a URL for a GeoJSON directly. Pretty sure it doesn't. So if you want to keep updated data, that's also an issue.
Okay. I see. So this is really making your map more sort of vibrant, having that continuously updated data. That's really such a useful thing for people who are using this data, and especially data that updates all the time. You're making a map that uses, I don't know, temperature data that people are getting in every day. I think this is such a great workflow.
Yeah. I actually have, like, again, Google Sheets and Google Apps Script can be like an amazing duo. I actually have like sheets that get a weather data, like, continuously, like every 3 hours, get updated data, and I can just grab that data into any web map with a pre-existing style, and it would just work. So again,
Does it specifically
keeping
have to go through Sheets? Could you not use a web map service or a web feature service?
you totally can. The um, the the pro of using Sheets is it's very easy for most users to understand, since it's basically Excel, uh, and you can collaborate on it very easily. You can, decide who can comment, who can edit, who can add, and you can protect ranges, something like that. Oh, and about Tarsh's question, he asked about the libraries. If you want to use vector tiles as your base map, you can't use Leaflet. Leaflet doesn't support vector tiles, so it's important.
Awesome. It's really nice to have all those different options and just see how you can really manipulate them. And I think a lot of users are a little bit afraid to go this extra step because they think, oh no, I'm going to have to code something. But this was quite a nice sort of copy and paste, point and click environment to do this in. I'm keen to go and try it out.
Yeah, that's the exact point of the presentation and the post, which I'll post a link to. Uh, you can literally copy and paste the code from my repo, or just from the post itself, and go to town on it. I mean, even the even the most codey part of the work here, you can just copy and paste. I mean, I have a repo with this code, and all you have to do is change the properties and the position of each of your attributes, and that's it. You can work. You can get your updated data anywhere.
Brilliant stuff.
I think we don't have any more questions. So
no, there are no more questions. Not in the live chat. And not in the room. So that just leaves me to round out the session. I just want to thank you so much, Dror, for giving such a fantastic presentation. This was really a user-friendly workflow. And at the end of the day, it's really nice to show off the maps that you have online. So this is really great for any user, any QGIS user, even if you are what I like to call a weekend user, someone who likes to make maps of their runs or hikes even. This is a great workflow to use.
Yeah. You can set it up to get your I don't know what GPS data, but if you update it, you can see it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and thank you for everyone who has viewed the session. There is now a 2-hour break. So I suggest going to get some lunch or a snack between the sessions, and then we will have, in my side of the world, this afternoon session, which we will have 3 more amazing sessions. So thank you so much for everyone who joined, and thank you so much to Dror for giving a fantastic session. Bye, everyone. See you later.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye. Thanks, Dror.